KARDS has a new game, Skirmish Mode, released today, July 15th, and we're going to take a quick look at it here today on Legendary Tactics. It has been a while since I've done a video on KARDS, and they just released a Skirmish Mode. You can see where the link is at the top left there, and it takes you into essentially a variant or something where you can qualify for some other cards, which is great. You choose the deck you battle with, and at the start of each player's turn, 1 damage is done to each enemy unit, not their HQ. So it's it's an interesting variant. It just dropped today, and so I thought I would play a quick game of it and see how it plays. I'm always a little bit underwhelmed with these variants in general, but I mean, KARDS is still fun regardless, and maybe there isn't as much that they can do with it, just with the nature of the game. But at any rate, we'll give it a try, and it's going to be interesting, especially since a lot of the weaker units will be wiped out pretty darn quickly, many times before they can do any damage at all. So it's just it's interesting from that perspective. So I'm up against a Japanese deck with heavy metal, and I clicked that start a little bit too quickly. I probably would have dropped the 1 to the 2 value 2 credit card there, because that one's more of a later game card, but not the end of the world, I guess. This is my favorite US deck. I'll put the cards in the deck list in the description. But it's my favorite, but it's a slow burn, this one. It's not something that is flashy right out of the gate, but there's a lot of really strong cards, and once I get my credit limit up, then I can really start doing some damage. So yeah, just getting that 4/4 down is going to be I think effective in staving off any attacks. I kind of glanced up at this point and I saw that, oh my gosh, he's got a lot of cards. Heavy metal is getting loaded right now, and then does a naval operation to pin my unit. I don't know if probably there was an element of having to play that card just to get something done. And then the interesting thing is it actually wipes out that card. Without this ability to heal, that would have wiped out that card, and because I could have advanced, and then it would have basically before it got to attack, I may have attacked once or something, but it would have been a lot weaker. And so it's with the weaker cards, you have to move up, otherwise you're just not gonna last. Now he used the Sendai Regiment, which is kind of interesting. It bans a card, and as long as that card is on the table, there's nothing I can do. It takes a card away, which is kind of interesting, and it comes back once the Sendai Regiment is gone. So I hadn't seen that one before, but I advanced and I got my my unit up there just so I could use the Sherman to draw up, have a comparable amount of cards to choose from. And so there's an Imperial Order there to boost things, and unfortunately it wiped out the unit that was in the front line, and then fully repairs the unit again and beefs it up. So that's going to be interesting. My Sherman takes a hit, as any units will at the top of the turn. I'm going to use my half-track to send that card right back and put all those units to waste. And unfortunately, when the card comes back from the Sendai Regiment, it's considered a played card and can't advance. I was hoping, I don't know, to me it seems fair if that card's allowed to advance, but whatever. It's just the way it's played. Now the half-track won't last very long here, and so that's one challenge. Now this begins an assault on my HQ, which is pretty crazy. Now I've got a lot of units, but they are in rough shape, as you can see. So and especially with that unit as a guard there. So I thought about it, and I thought, okay, let's play supply front. Give not only to repair the unit in the front lines, but also to boost it up and take out that that unit guarding. And that took all my credits, and it wasn't maybe as effective as it could have been in retrospect, but at the time it just seemed like it was the right thing to do. Now he plays right back and destroys my Sherman, and now I don't know whether this deck was designed for this particular skirmish, because it seems to me that it may have been. It's certainly, Heavy Metal's deck is built around these like the Mito regiments that when upon destruction they do damage to HQ, and you'll see how that plays into the game as we go through. I was looking at war bonds because I'd love to get my credits up, and then I can get those 2 credit cards in play. Those are really powerful, especially if you can play them later in the game. Now, I wasn't sure what I should do here, whether I should beef up the unit or do 3 damage on that Mito regiment. I decided to beef it up, and I looked to just kind of block the front line, protect my HQ. May not have been the absolute best move, but I was just thinking that I really needed to defend my HQ. And then another Sendai regiment comes in and wipes out my front line. An amphibious assault blows up my tomahawk or whatever. It was just like, oh my gosh, like, okay, so is this the best time to play war bonds? I think so. I really didn't have that many options that were palatable. I guess I could have played the Spitfire, but I figured, okay, well, let's just get some more cards in hand. Let's see what we can do. And now I've got 11 credits right now, so it gives me lots of options. However, I do need to worry about this attack here, and unfortunately, I'm down to 14 already, and some Air Force comes into play. So the P-51 might be a good option at this point. And I don't know if I guess I would call my opponent's deck a Jagro deck. It didn't feel like it was an overwhelming number of units, but now I've got a lot of cards. Now I've definitely got the advantage in cards. I'm down, my HQ is down, I don't have a lot of units down, but I've got a lot of credits and I've got a lot of cards. So just a matter of choosing which one is the right one. So I'm going to drop the first Airborne, get that underway, and I'm going to get my my naval support card there, just in case it comes in handy. And I'm going to take out that Air Force there. I'm hoping as well. Unfortunately, I took 2 damage again on my HQ, and I was kind of looking for a way to do some damage there. The Mito regiment there is going to be destroyed, but unfortunately, again, that hurts my HQ. So it takes me down to 10. This is where I began to stress out a little bit here, because I really didn't know what tricks my opponent had up his or her sleeve here. But again, another attack on my HQ. I'm down to 8 already, and then a surprise attack pins my my P-51 and then destroys it. So I'm like, okay, now only 2 cards left, and then using Imperial Strength and playing the plane, he's basically throwing everything he has at me right now, and I'm barely keeping my paratroopers alive, and I'm thinking that, you know what, I don't have long to live here. I've got to make sure that I'm gonna survive. I was considering the naval support. I decided against it just in case, and that brought a card back, but I wasn't able to use it, so I decided to sacrifice my paratroopers there. Again, took me down a little bit, and I'm kind of scrambling here because I need to take out that unit. So I'm going to put the Spitfire down, and that's really my only option right now. I did not have really a great mix of cards. There's nothing I could do, even though I tried to attack with my Spitfire just in case. There really wasn't much I could do, and this was it kind of came down to the brass tacks here. He's at full strength, and I'm barely clinging to life. So the skirmish mode, the variant there is really interesting. Now, interestingly, and this was where I think the mistake was made on my opponent's part. My opponent went for the Spitfire, and I managed to pick up the this is the Engineer Regiment, which gave me just a little boost to HQ. I'm up to 4. I got my my bomber down, which destroyed that unit. Bit of a waste maybe, but it definitely sets me up now. And unfortunately, I maybe should have taken out that other unit because my bomber started with a strength of 1. And the cards like that, I really feel like I was up against a deck that was built for this particular skirmish, or at least, if not built for this skirmish, it was built to accomplish this very thing. And really weakened now, but I've still got a lot of cards though. And there's no enemy units on the board at the moment, so unless there's a card which does immediate damage to my HQ, I'm gonna send in that guy and get 13 and 13. That is gonna do some damage. It's just a matter of hanging on until that. So I was kind of white knuckled here. Definitely got an advantage. I got units down. I got plenty of cards in hand, but you just never know. And that unit, I immediately read what was going on, and yeah, that's so I knew I could not give an order because that would have been the last order I gave. So that was unfortunate. And so again, clogging up the front line. And I'm thinking, okay, let's just protect the HQ here. And I'm just hoping I can get some cards that are going to give me some, additional strength in HQ. And I played that artillery, and that was what I figured would be my ticket. Because that artillery could do some damage, which would heal HQ and give me what I needed. And I've got some real firepower up at the front. Like that 4-1 is not going to survive, but the 13-12 certainly will. And there's nothing that my opponent can do at this point, as far as I'm aware, to take that unit out. So the biggest fear I have is another card that does some damage to my HQ, or perhaps some aircraft. Depends on what. Oh, there's an aircraft. And Imperial Order to beef up that unit. But it's not going to be strong enough. So I was just thinking, okay, I just can't afford to play an order. But other than that, we are in good shape. And now I can attack with my artillery, and that begins to heal my HQ. And my opponent sees that and immediately resigns. It's game over. And I get a supply shortage, which is pretty cool. So this is just a glimpse at Skirmish. Again, nothing wildly different, but it's a neat little variant on a standard game of cards. And I really enjoyed it. So check it out. It's on cards right now. And we'll see you here next time on Legendary Tactics.